Worst competing experience or prep experience?
Oh, one springs to mind.
Wasn't asking about how shit I am and how good you are this week.
Yeah,
Cheers, mate.
yeah, cheers, Micah. Well, to be fair, one that springs to mind, it wasn't even me competing. It was when Matthew competed and we were backstage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't really want to go into that because basically there's just a guy backstage who just acted grunting doing one rows and was staring out everybody, including myself, who
And
was and Finn, who we weren't even competing.
No, we were just like,
And it
right,
was
mate.
like, you all right? How you doing, mate? And it was literally like we were
Now he wants to
going
come on the podcast.
yeah, and we were going to war
It's
with
Joe
him.
Gillen.
Yeah, we'll be honest. There we go. So that was a pretty weird experience.
He knows he was being a twat though.
Yeah, 100%.
Like he would get like when we've seen him since then.
Yeah.
When we've seen him since then, he's like, yeah, like I was a twat that day.
Yeah. So that would be one. That was.
I wouldn't say it was a worst experience. It was funny.
No, it was just funny. It was just like, Jesus Christ, it's a UK FBA qualified show. Chill.
I'd say worst prep experience.
Uh,
I think it wasn't even that bad, but I remember I had a bad hypo when I was on a walk and it was chucking it down. Me and Shannon were on a walk and it was raining, but I was red hot, like absolutely boiling, like couldn't stop sweating.
yeah.
So I had a coat on, but you know, like a waterproof coat, it was like stuck to my skin because I was sweating.
Yeah.
So like I've just felt grim. I took the coat off and I was just like walking around. I just had a t-shirt on. It was cold and it was chucking it down. Then I started to feel worse. I was like having like cold sweats, and we were probably like 5 minutes away from home, and I was just like, this is fucking grim.
Yeah.
Like we got home, like, and I still needed to go to Tesco. I still had more steps to do. So I said to Shannon, I was like, I'm not going inside because I'll like get warm and then I won't want to come back out.
Yeah.
So I was like, you go inside, and I was like, will you just get me? We had, I can't remember what juice it was at the time, but it was like really like 0 calorie or low calorie juice. I was like, just get me a bottle with that in.
Yeah.
I was like, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I had that, and I was fine. Like it literally just needed like something.
I've always.
But yeah, that was grim.
That's one thing I've not spoke about that much actually on the podcast. I've always like had really really bad like hypos. So it's like for me when I was in my teens, I used to like get them constantly. Get them in my off season like a lot. I get them a lot. And this prep's been the last 2 weeks are the only times I've had two, and they've been pretty bad. But I'm so used to it that I just can I can just switch off to them. But I remember like my last prep, the amount of times I'd like come out of having a sunbed, and with where it's a different office setup, and my mum would walk by me and I'd be literally like lying on the floor, like pretty much naked, and I'd just be like literally lying on the floor, and she'd be like, Reece, you alright? I'm like, yeah, I'm just going hypo. Like I can switch off to it. But I've had a few this prep recently in the last 2 weeks. I'm like, this is fun. This is exciting. But I'm quite good at being able. I've had it since I was like 14, 15. So I'm quite good at switching off from them. So I wouldn't really say like I've had a hypo that's like so bad.
I can't think of anything worse than that though. I'm not saying it's so bad. I'm just saying I haven't experienced anything really bad.
Yeah, I haven't really. I mean, my last prep wasn't that bad. Like in total, like
Getting absolutely embarrassed by David.
that wasn't a bad experience.
It was. You
No.
weren't there.
No, yeah, true.
Watching the live stream back.
Yeah.
That was a bad experience. To be fair, that was a bad experience. Like watching myself back and going, "That's a shit pose. That was."
I think it's like, as honest as it sounds, like I think as well, like I this is a bit of a personal one, so I'm going into some personal situations here. I think how Sanaya was like 2 weeks out. No, 2 weeks out. No, from the finals. She was really bad. Like, and she'd admit that. Like, she called me at like 2 weeks out from the finals, and she was in a really, really, really bad spot. Like where she was like, I don't want to carry on. Like, and I'm at this point ruined. And I remember just saying to her, like, if you don't want to do it, stop. And it was like, it almost seemed, I remember thinking to myself, like, I should actually be supportive, but that's not who I need to be in that situation. I'm going to be honest. If I was to ring up Finn and say, mate, I can't carry on, I'm so battered, Finn wouldn't be like, mate, you've got to do it, you've got to carry on. Finn would say, you've put so much time into it, mate. If you want to sack it off, fucking sack it off, go for it. Like,
you'll regret it.
You'll end up thinking, Jesus Christ, why didn't I just stick to it for another week or two? And I think like that was not a nice experience to be in, because it was like my honest thought process was like, to Sanaya, get a fucking grip. But she's not like how I am, and I'm not gonna then lie to her and be like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Do
and
it.
You don't have the energy at that point.
I don't.
You don't have the energy for yourself at that point.
No. So that wasn't a nice experience, and that was a definite first experience of like having to
think about other people and their emotions at that point when you're at that point as well.
Yeah, so that wasn't enjoyable, and that made like the finals a bit weird in the build up, because like we literally was just a bit awkward. Like it was a bit like, because I was honest, and it was like I shouldn't have been honest, but I'm not gonna be honest. Like I'm always gonna be honest. So that was a bad experience, but that was just a weird experience. It wasn't like a bad
I'd say
experience.
that was probably the most of the end of the prep anyway. Like,
yeah, and I think that's quite normal. Like, it was our first time going into a prep together. We hadn't really been together at all, so it was like we just literally only known each other really in the prep. So it was almost set up on like odd foundation. So like, I don't know. I feel like if that happened now, when I say I know it would be. So now I wouldn't even say it to me. And if she did, she'd be like, I know you're just gonna tell me to get a grip. So she'd know exactly what I'd say. But yeah, other than that, prep experiences, this prep's been sound. Like, pretty much, like, there's not been anything that's bad.
To be fair, my prep, like, competing experience wasn't great just because it was COVID.
Yeah.
So like, you could say the whole prep.
What about my
BMBF
my
show.
200 kg deadlift last time?
Yeah, that wasn't
I
great.
came down like 20 kilos because I was like, I'll take a high rep set and got like 2 less reps. And I was like 3 weeks out, I was like, that's the last time I deadlifted. Fuck this. That was the worst day of my life. That was a bad experience. But yeah, good question, Maka.
There's a few.